Currently, there's two soft underbellies of the Russian Empire. One is Bryansk, Kursk, Belgorod, those regions, because whenever they launch missiles at Ukrainian citizens from the territory of Belgorod, for example, they receive a response, and people who live in Belgorod, they realize that it's a game that two parties can play, right? And it's as dangerous to shoot Ukrainians for themselves as well. And this is why they react. And basically, we really hope that they will be wise enough to call their authorities to stop this insanity.
And I think what we're all hoping is that the West has not become complacent now that this military aid package has been approved by US Congress. Hopefully, it'll make a big difference, but alone, it is not enough, and there needs to be more. And I'm wondering in particular whether you think, for example, Germany granting access to the Taurus missiles could be the kind of thing that could actually make a further difference in Ukraine.
I think Germany could have done it already, right? If they had political will, and if I'm talking about Mr. Scholz, of course, if he had political will, he would do that already. But we don't see that, unfortunately, and something tells me that it will never happen. We won't see Taurus missiles in Ukraine. Um, we will see, I believe, other kinds of support and military aid. There are already factories being built, factories for producing artillery shells, because luckily our allies realized that this is very important nowadays for Ukrainian defenders. But unfortunately, this takes a lot of time. But on the other hand, because our allies, comparing to Russia, even that produces plenty of shells on a daily basis, but they are very strong and they have very powerful economy, again, comparing to Russia, and they will be able to do that.
Just on the Taurus missiles, one of the arguments that Olaf Scholz makes against providing them is he says it would be an escalation, not only because of how they might be used by Ukraine against Russia, but also because he believes it would require German soldiers to be on the ground in Ukraine helping to program the missiles. Now, I know some analysts have disputed that and said that actually you wouldn't need German soldiers on the ground. Do you think that Ukraine has the expertise already within its forces to program the missiles themselves?
Well, since we're building our own missiles, like Neptune, for example, those missiles that destroyed Russian flagship Moskva in the Black Sea, of course, we have capability to program foreign missiles as well. The problem is lack of political willpower, right? If you really want to do something, you're looking for opportunity. If you don't want to do something, you're looking for reason to justify you not doing it. And this is exactly what we can see, because we already heard a lot of different reasons from Ukrainians not being able to program those missiles to, I don't know, technologies getting in the hands of Russians and things like that. Um, we must, I think, we must understand that probably there is no will to pass those missiles to Ukraine for whatever reason, but I think it will not happen.
And when you hear allies of Ukraine in the West make the argument about not wanting to provoke Russia and escalate things further, what do you make of that when you hear that argument? Because, of course, it's very easy for someone who is not living in a country that's currently being illegally occupied to make that argument. And yet, it is a legitimate point that no one wants to see Vladimir Putin use tactical nuclear weapons in Ukraine, for example. So when you hear people talk about the risk of escalation and not wanting to provoke Russia further, What do you make of that?
There are two opinions. One opinion is like escalation is general, and it's one of the Russian narratives that are being spread on the West. It's like Russians and Ukrainians killing each other. You know, we should stop escalation because they are killing each other. Ukrainians are defending because it's a proper thing to defend your home. You don't want to die because somebody just wants to kill you. He doesn't have that right. Nobody has. We all have right to live, and we have right to protect ourselves. This is why we are fighting. And another opinion is, of course, related to use of nuclear weapons, because people are afraid that if there is a chance that uh, Russian army will be engaged in direct combat against NATO troops, this will inevitably lead to a nuclear war. On the other hand, considering the intensity of talks about using nuclear weapons on a Russian television, and all the attempts to scare the West, I think they understand the price of this, and they will never do that, of course.
That's really interesting. In terms of what we may see from Russia over the coming weeks, there has been speculation that they may launch a full-on assault on Kharkiv. Do you think that is feasible, and how would you rate the defense of Kharkiv at the moment?
At this point, we don't see any Russian assault groups or armies being concentrated on the direction of Kharkiv or Liman. They have troops that they can use on operational level, but not on the level of taking cities. I'm talking about strategic levels. There are no such groups, and if we will see them, we will be talking about it. But currently, it's not the case. The problem is Russians doing what they do best, which is demolishing cities. It's their favorite tactics that we could see in Grozny, in Chechnya, in Georgia, in Syria, in Aleppo. And this is exactly what they do here in Ukraine, in Mariupol, and currently we're talking about Kharkiv, unfortunately. So they are trying to demolish this city completely, and I think they will concentrate their attempts on destroying Kharkiv in the nearest future. They will raise the intensity of the strikes. I mean, this is what we will see in the nearest future.
Just to go back to our conversation earlier about Crimea, Russian sources have claimed that Ukraine conducted a short-range attack and strike against targets in Crimea on Monday night. Do you see Crimea as the soft underbelly of Russia's war effort? That if you can undermine Crimea, if you can destroy or damage further the Kerch Bridge, if you can continue to strike targets in Crimea, that is where Putin is at his weakest?
Absolutely. Currently, there's two soft underbellies of the Russian Empire. One is Bryansk, Kursk, Belgorod, those regions, because whenever they launch missiles at Ukrainian citizens from the territory of Belgorod, for example, they receive a response, and people who live in Belgorod, they realize that it's a game that two parties can play, right? And it's as dangerous to shoot Ukrainians for themselves as well. And this is why they react. And basically, we really hope that they will be wise enough to call their authorities to stop this insanity. But unfortunately, with Russia, it's not the case. And of course, the second soft underbelly is Crimea, because we know that with losing Crimea, Putin will most probably lose his life as well. That's why these strikes on strategic objects will continue. And of course, we expect that with the Ukrainian army gaining access to Azov Sea, at least, the future of so-called Russian Crimea will be under big question. So yes.
You've been watching Frontline for Times Radio. My thanks to Louis Sykes, our producer. To support the work of Frontline, hit the subscribe button. You can also listen to Times Radio throughout the day or read it at times.co.uk. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.